Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shailesh Bhala. I am working as a Chief Operating Officer with SPM Shipping Best Oasis. We are one of the largest cash buyers and we are ship owners as well. In today's session, I'll be talking about more on financing, the current status, challenges, solutions, and the future. I think this is an easier slide which talks about the freight market. We'll be able to see 80% of the freight is being moved by vessel, which contributes close to 2 to 3% of the emissions. And in terms of dollar value, it's close to 1 billion tons of emissions, which are being constantly monitored by the regulators. This is where the regulator constantly work on to look into how we can achieve those targets. When I say those targets, the 2030, 2040, and even the 2050, we spoke about zero carbon emissions. This slide is a very interesting slide. It talks about where we are in terms of the borrowing, where is the lending coming from. It has changed drastically in the last decade. Initially, it started with say Europe, UK, where it was dominating the market. Close to 85% of the lending was coming from that market, which have gradually moved towards the east, most towards the APAC. I think it's the first time in the history where it has gone below 50%. Where Europe and UK is close to 49.7. This slides, I think, needs to be looked into a perspective where we need to look for our borrowings. I think East is where it's getting more flexible, more easier. They're getting competitive as well. In case if your strategy is more towards the West, then something which needs to be looked at a holistic level, and we need to distribute our borrowing between various geographies. In terms of products, I think more or less everyone is aware of those traditional sources. Those have always been there, but again, there has been a gradual shift from the traditional sources to the alternative sources. The recent survey talks about close to 68% of the financing, which is coming from the traditional sources, but alternative sources is close to 32%. And it's gradually increasing from 3 to 5%. From the ship owner's perspective or from the borrower's perspective, I think we need to just constantly look into what are those alternative sources. Initially, when those products were launched, those were very expensive, but over a period of time, those have become very competitive, very flexible. The JOLCOs and the leasing structures are gaining pace at a fast moment. Coming to the green financing, I think it's relatively young. Only 10% of the global financing is from green, and that too is coming from more on the corporate side and to the younger vessels. It will take its time. It will slowly get aligned to the 30, 40, 50 targets. The more of the green financing products which have been rolled out where on the West, East is slowly picking up, mostly from China and Japan. How did it evolve? It evolved mostly from the regulators. The regulators were constantly looking into how the carbon emissions can be reduced. From the financing perspective, I think the biggest event which took place was 2019 when the Poseidon Principle were launched, and it evolved further in 23-24 as we speak. Almost 35 banks, I have seen this one of the previous presentation as well, 35 banks have signed. These 35 banks contribute close to 80% of the total lending. I think that's where the majority of the financial institutions are looking into. The thought processing have already started. The rollout is work in progress, and hopefully in a span of 5 to 10 years you will be able to see those products are being rolled out more in the market. The products in green financing, those are not much different to what I have highlighted in my previous slides. The difference is the KPIs. Those products comes with the KPIs. When I say KPIs, the borrower, they need to demonstrate how they are contributing to the reduction in the carbon emissions. And every structure is being defined in a manner where those KPIs will be mapped to the data. That data will be constantly evaluated by independent auditors, and eventually those reduction in the pricing will be mapped. I think from green financing strategy perspective, majority of the ship owners, they have not worked on it. The data is something which is very, very important. The ship owners, they need to start documenting the emissions which their vessels are creating. Then top of it, they need to align those emissions with the regulators. They have to see where the regulators are evolving. Once you have a data and you see your strategy aligned with the regulators, you have to speak to your financial institutions. You have to speak to them to see what their strategy is, work out the products, and finally roll it out. Challenges, yes, definitely there will be challenges, and those challenges will keep on increasing. Awareness is the biggest challenge. As of now, many institutions and even the borrowers, they are not aware of. They are aware of, yes, decarbonization is work in progress, but they are not aware of how they need to create their data, how to use the data. That is something which will be looked into over a period of time. The lack of standardization, even though we talk about green financing, there are no standard products. The various lenders, they are lending with different products with different KPIs. Once it's streamlined, once I'm able to know what is my cost and the benefit I'm gaining out of it, and it's streamlined over a period of time, more and more investment will be deployed into the financing bit. The cost, yes, there are various numbers which we spoke about. One of the article I was reading, it was talking about $1 trillion of investment which will be required to achieve the 2050 goals. The limited availability of technology. Majority of our vessels are old. The technology is limited and the cost to it's very high. That's the reason we are not able to roll it out. The uncertainty around regulators, that's constantly an issue whenever the owners, they try to achieve a target and then the regulation keeps on changing. So you have to constantly revisit your strategy. The future trends, yes, the first important trend is the green financing, which I spoke about. It's 10%. It's expected to grow substantially. All the owners, they need to look into what they are doing, how they are strategizing to achieve those reduced pricing, higher loan to values. The increased role of alternative lenders is on a spike. They are contributing close to 38% as we speak. The rise of fintech, we have seen there has been a gradual increase on the fintech. They are talking about targets of close to $50 billion, which needs to be deployed by 2035. I was speaking to Vikas, they got the Bhala license approval, and they are talking about an individual who can become a ship owner with an investment of $1,000. So might be at this stage, there is no clarity in terms of how it will work, but definitely as a ship owner, we have to constantly evaluate to see how it's contributing to my strategy, how it fits, how I can start my first transaction. And last but not the least, on the regulatory side, those regulations will always keep on changing and we have to always align our strategy to it. Thank you.